Hey guys, welcome to history. So get your history books out so you're ready to learn with me. No, seriously, get them out. I will wait. No, go get them. I will wait. Go get them. Go get your history books. Seriously, no, seriously. Go get it now. Don't play around and not get it, because when I find out that you never got it, it's not going to go well, because we're going to have a personal private tutoring time together so that I make sure that you are getting it. So I want you to read along with me in your book. So please go get your books. Thank you. Please and thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so everybody should have had time to go get their books, have them with them so that we can find out more about who we talked about yesterday. Who did we talk about yesterday? Yes, we talked about Robert E. Lee. Very good. And Robert E. Lee, as a young boy, admired who? Who was that person that Robert E. Lee admired? Wow, words not coming out right. Yes, good job. All of you all said it at the same time. He admired George Washington. He loved George Washington. He never grew up knowing him. He never met him. He wasn't even alive during the time that George Washington was alive. But he heard stories from whom? From his father, yes, because his father was a good friend of George Washington and served under him in the military. So, George Washington was talked about all the time in front of Robert E. Lee, and that's why he was just like, I want to be like my hero, George Washington. What was the saying that Robert E. Lee's father wrote about Washington? I'll give you bonus points in your head if you can remember. Oh, some of you, Aaliyah, did you say it? I think I heard you. Good. Yes. Tyler, good. First in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen, right? So when Robert E. Lee was talking at George Washington's funeral, he said he was somebody who was first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. And that's what Robert E. Lee's father gave as an idea of what George Washington was like. Now, Robert E. Lee's mother wanted to make sure, my son loves George Washington and wants to be like him. I'm going to tell him some things that he can do to be like his hero. What were 4 things that she taught him and told him? I heard somebody, yes. Remember, no, because some of you were saying be kind. Remember, we talked about that yesterday. There was no be kind in there. What did she say? Be honest. Yes, good job. Yes, Micah. Okay, good. I figured you would probably come up with that one too. Be gentle but strong. What else? Because remember, one of them is like be honest. Yes, always be truthful. And then always do what is right no matter what. Remember that? So what are they? Do what is right always, no matter what. Be honest, be truthful, and be gentle but strong. Okay, so let's say them again. Always do what's right, no matter what. Be honest, be truthful, and be gentle but strong. Okay, and those are the things that she said. If you practice these things, you can be like your hero. And those things were things that Robert E. Lee practiced in his life, because as a young man, as a teenager, he was able to go where to study to be a great soldier. Good. Oh, I couldn't believe you guys remembered that. Good. West Point Military Academy. Yes, Carter Oliver, that's where you want to go. I know. West Point Military Academy. And so he went to West Point Military Academy with 87 other young men, and half of them ended up quitting by the end, but not Robert E. Lee, because he knew how to put his duties and things first, and he worked really hard. He probably remembered, always do right no matter what, be truthful, be honest, be gentle but strong. And he probably kept those things going through his head, And he was a great student there at West Point Military Academy. He did an awesome job. Now we're going to talk about after his graduation and what life was like after that. So page 255. 255. Just in case you're saying it the 3 times like you're supposed to. All right. After graduation. After graduating, Robert E. Lee became an engineer for the United States Army. So we were thinking, oh yeah, he's going to become a soldier. He's going to become a general. He's going to become this. No, he became an engineer. He helped the Army build things around the United States. So he became an engineer for the United States Army. He also proved himself to be an excellent soldier in the Mexican-American War. So there was a war against Mexico and America, and in that war, Robert E. Lee, he was awesome as a soldier. He was a brave commander and carefully planned what his soldiers would do in battle. So he was kind of one of the ones in charge, and he helped to decide what they were going to do and where they were going to go. The North and the South argue. Time passed. The northern and the southern states had been arguing for a long time. And remember, we already knew this. And this is one of the reasons why I like this book, because it brings it back in different people's lives in different ways. Where did we already learn this? Who did we already talk about? The North and South arguing. Right, with Abraham Lincoln. That's why we know that, he was the president of the North and they chose their own Southern president. We also talked about it with Harriet Tubman, and we saw how this affected her life, okay? So we now are going to find out about it from the life of Robert E. Lee. The North and South are arguing. The Southern states believe that each state should be able to make its own laws without the United States government telling it what to do. But what the United States was saying, well, we made a main set of laws for all of the states to follow, and we ought to follow those main set of laws that our founding fathers set up. And those laws state these things. Well, the South didn't like that, and they didn't want to hear that. So finally, the Southern states withdrew from the United States when they thought that the government was taking away their rights. We don't like what you're telling us. We're going to become our own government and our own states. So the Southerners called themselves, remember, very good, the Confederates. They made their own flag, a Confederate flag, and they chose their own president, who was not Thomas, we kept getting them all confused, right? Jefferson, not Thomas Jefferson, but Jefferson Davis. So they made their own flag and chose Jefferson Davis as their president. President Abraham Lincoln wanted to keep the United States together. He wanted us to stay a strong country. So he knew to do that, there was going to have to be a civil war. Wasn't something that he took lightly, and it wasn't something that he was just like, well, I'm mad at them, so let's fight again. No, he's thinking we've got to just settle this, and we've got to get so everybody's on the same page. And we're going to fight, and whoever wins the fight, that's what we're going to just go with. So there was going to be a civil war. Each man would have to decide for himself if he believed as the North did, or as the South did, or as the North did. Do you believe that every state should have their own rights and be able to do their own thing? Or as the North, we're all one United States of America. We should all work together and be one country because that's what we're supposed to be. A hard decision. Robert E. Lee loved the United States, but he also loved his home state of Virginia. Remember, the United States, that was his home. That was his country. That was the country of his hero. His hero was the president, the first president of this wonderful United States. I love the United States. I'm in the army for the United States. I will go to fight for anybody who comes against the United States. But he also loved his home state of Virginia. And man, did it make him so sad when Virginia decided to join the Confederates. How can I fight against my own family and the men from Virginia. Because remember what I told you, third grade, these were brothers and cousins and fathers and sons fighting against each other. Some that believed with the North and some that believed with the South. It was such a difficult thing for these people. Although he knew even then that the South had little chance of winning, he sadly gave up his position in the United States Army. He couldn't fight for the United States Army because then he would be fighting against the people from the South. So he had to give up his position and go and be a part of the South, the Confederate Army. So he went back to Virginia, where the Confederate Army was being organized to fight the North. And guess what? Robert E. Lee was chosen to be the general of all the Confederate Southern armies. This did not make him happy, though, because he knows how horrible war is. Boys and girls, these men were not like, yes, let's just go at each other. No, they were thinking, war is horrible, but we've got to settle this and figure this out. Before the Civil War was over, thousands of men would die, and it would be families and friends and people in your own country. But it was a sad thing that took place. The Civil War. The Confederate soldiers loved General Lee. Although he expected them to do their duty. Oh, you are going to do your duty. We're going to get these things done and we're going to do them right. He was always kind and understanding. The soldiers cheered General Lee when he rode by on Traveler, his beautiful gray horse. So he had a horse, and that horse's name was Traveler. And Traveler was this beautiful gray horse that everybody loved because they loved General Lee as well. It is said that Traveler wanted to be at the very front lines of the battle. I don't know how they know that. Maybe because General Lee would get on, would be part of the Civil War, and he would get on his horse and Traveler would just trot him up to the front where all of the battle was really taking place. And look what it says, to protect General Lee, because they loved him so much, the soldiers would have to push the brave horse back to safety. No, General Lee, you can't be up here. Traveler, come on, buddy, come on. We're going to take you back. We're going to put some other men up here so that you guys are protected. We don't want anything to happen to General Lee. We don't want anything to happen to Traveler. So he would trot up to the front, and the soldiers would have to pull him back. For 4 years, General Lee and his soldiers fought diligently. Although General Lee was a good leader, the Union Army was much bigger and stronger. General Lee had to give up. The North won the war. At the close of the war, many Southern soldiers were bitter. They were angry. A few of them even wanted to leave the United States and live in Europe. Let's just go back to Europe. It would be better to do that. General Lee talked to his men, and look at what he said. Wait a minute, we are one country again. We fought, we lost, but now we're one country again. Go back to your homes and help rebuild our country. This is our country. So go back home and help rebuild it. Now that the war was over, what would General Lee do? Since he had told his soldiers to help build their country, he must try to do the same thing. When Robert E. Lee was asked to become the president of Washington College in Virginia, he agreed. You want me to be the president of a college? Sure, I would love to be able to be the president of a college. As he had taught his soldiers, he also taught all of the students in that college to do their duty and love their country. As president, he made sure that those students knew it is so important to do what you're supposed to do. Stuff that he learned when he was in college, when he was at West Point. And he brought it to these young people in Washington College and said, you always do your duties first. Make sure to get those right things done. And then you love your country undeniably. And that's what he did as president of Washington College. In 1870, only a few years, how many years? Just 5 years. After the Civil War, Robert E. Lee died. Because remember, 1861 to 1865, that was the Civil War years of the Civil War. So 1875 years later, he died. Washington College, which had been named, guess who for? Of course, George Washington. They changed the name of the college. Guess what they changed it to? Washington and Lee University. How fitting that the man who had admired Washington so much would be remembered in this way, and now his name is with his hero, George Washington's name, as the name of this university, of this college. General Robert E. Lee, like General George Washington, was one of the greatest generals in American history and a man who dearly loved his country. And what awesome things we look at his life as a young boy and the things that he did and the hard work that he put in as a young boy. How did it help him as he got older? Look at the things he was able to do, become this amazing, great general and help his country. But even though they lost, his side was the side that lost, it didn't mean that he didn't do a good job. He was an excellent soldier, and there were lots of things that he did very well, and he was a great general. But he also knew when it was time to say, we have to surrender. He was a smart man. And after that, he helped his country in any way that he could, and look at the things that he did. All right, so super quickly, page 258. Let's go over these together. What war was fought over the southern states leaving the United States? Southern states leaving the United States. Civil War, War for Independence, War of 1812. Come on, guys. Yes, you all better know that. Obviously, a civil war. War for Independence, we haven't talked about in chapters and chapters ago. War of 1812, same thing, chapters ago. What was the Southern Army called? We just said. Yes, A, the Confederates. Very good. What was the Northern Army called? Obviously, the opposite of the Confederates. Remember, we did talk about this yesterday too, though. They are the Union. So the Confederates versus the Union, the South versus the North. Letter B, Union. Number 4, what position or job was Robert E. Lee given during the war? During the war, what job was he given? Yes, don't get it confused. After graduating and, going into the Army, he was just an engineer. But what job he was given, his position, was General of the Confederate States. So letter B, General. What did Robert E. Lee encourage his men to do after the war was over? Keep right on fighting, letter A. Rebuild their country, B. Or stay angry, C. Obviously, again, letter B, to rebuild their country. What job did Robert E. Lee have after the war? A, college president, B, college professor, or C, president of the United States? Yes, remember, because I tried to make sure I kept saying it over and over again. President, not of the United States. Okay, there was no President Robert E. Lee. No, president of Washington College. So he was a college president, letter A. All right, good. That's it. So keep looking over those and make sure, go back and study those maps, 3rd grade. You should know your northeast, your southeast, your Midwest, and now your Southwest. So study over all of those maps to review those states so that you can easily pick out where they are, because we've done all of those and practiced them several times. All right, so have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.